1981 was a very trying but highly successful year for Purdue University. Though rising costs and governmental budget cuts complicated matters considerably, the university proceeded with the second largest construction program in its history, and with the education of more students than ever before. Commencement this spring was so big that it had to be divided into 3 separate ceremonies. The enrollment this fall reached 32,797, more than double what it was just 15 years ago. Because of a trend in recent years toward more single undergraduates and fewer married students, the housing office has been able to use all of the old Ross-Aid units, now called the Apartments North, and 9 of the Apartments South for single undergraduates. Since these can house 3 or 4 times as many single students as married ones, they've been a real boon in helping to deal with the housing shortage, though other measures have also been necessary. All spare storerooms and service areas in the dorms have been converted into living quarters, and in the H dorms, 4 rooms at the end of each hallway have been refurnished to accommodate 3 students instead of 2. Of course, they're crowded, but the rent is less, and 350 more students have been able to enjoy the advantages of dormitory living, such as good food with all the salads, milk, and delicious soft ice cream they want, and proxy computer terminals connected to the university's main system, where one can do homework right at home. 900 undergraduates were also placed in the graduate houses, both of which were renamed this year, to honor the memory of 2 former deans and vice presidents of the university, George Hawkins of engineering and Ernest Young of the graduate school. New commercial apartments near campus are expected to relieve the residence halls of so much pressure in the future. This one is on Russell Street, right next to Sheely and Dumey Halls. New construction was widespread on campus this year. Near the village, this parking lot at Grant and Wood Streets, just east of the grad houses, became the site of a new 1,000-car parking garage, complete with connections to the pedestrian tunnel system in the area. Next to the Krannert Building, construction began on the Krannert Center for Executive Education and Research. Funded by a $3 million grant from the Krannert Charitable Trust, it will be used in retraining corporate executives and managers. Behind Entomology Hall is the new Agricultural Research Building, which will provide laboratories for entomology and small animal studies, hazardous biological research, and an electron microscopy complex. The new 3-story biochemistry annex houses the state chemist's offices and laboratories on the first 2 floors, and the Showalter Laboratory on the top floor. That'll be used for cancer and virus research. Just southwest of the Life Sciences greenhouses, construction was completed on the National Soil Erosion Laboratory, the first federal facility of its kind. Purdue was chosen as the site for this because so much soils research was already centered here. Chemical and physical testing of samples began this fall, and the main hydraulics laboratory should be in operation by next summer. The new undergraduate library began to take on recognizable form. Except for the main entrance, it's all on 2 levels underground where it connects to Stewart Center. It will house over 1 million books on over 20 miles of shelving, and is also scheduled to begin operation by summer. This area on the west side of the Math Sciences building was closed off this spring, so construction could begin on a 2-story underground addition to the university's heavily overloaded computing center. Just north of Mackey Arena, a new multi-purpose building was erected to help intercollegiate athletics keep up with the growth in their domain. And 2 new additions to the co-rec gym were put to use this fall. One contains 21 new racket and handball courts, and the other is a huge room, which can be used intact for activities such as this, or it can be divided by curtains into 3 basketball courts. But now let's take a look at some of the other events of the year, starting with basketball, as played by the varsity. Coach Gene Cady's first year at Purdue was very successful. His Boilermakers were led by Russell Cross, one of the nation's outstanding freshmen, and the season ended with 21 wins and 11 losses and a third-place finish in the National Invitational Tournament. The halftime of the Illinois game featured a reunion of former Purdue quarterback greats: Mark Vitale, Mike Phipps, Ron DeGravio, Bertie Allen, Ross Fietner, Lenny Dawson, Dale Samuels, and Bob DeMoss. Also invited but unable to attend were Mark Herman, Bob Greasy, and Gary Danielson. The coming of spring was heralded by the 68th Annual Horticulture Show. And the Vet School Open House in April included a demonstration on horse handling presented by members of the student chapter of the American Veterinary Medical Association. The 10th Annual Day for Women, sponsored by the Purdue Alumni Association, was based on the theme My Fair Lady and attracted 340 alumni and friends to a program which appealed to a variety of interests. During Gala Week, Purdue alumni returned to the campus for class reunions and events planned in their honor, and for the traditional class parade. The class of 1956, celebrating its 25th anniversary, placed a wreath on the grave of the founder of the university and garnered memorabilia for their family albums. The oldest class represented was that of 1911. The pre-race parade for the Grand Prix has become an event in itself, featuring such notables as President and Mrs. Hanson, the Grand Prix Queen, quarterback Mark Herman, a delegation from the Indianapolis 500, the new Purdue Pete and Uncle Sam, and a number of variety acts, including Indians and naturally Shriners. It's all part of what is now known as the greatest spectacle in college racing, and one of the most successful student-run scholarship fundraising enterprises anywhere. When it was all over this year, the Grand Prix Foundation had more than $30,000 in new scholarship money. A lot of people had some fun, and the students who organized it had gained a lot of valuable experience. This year's Grand Marshal was Roger McCluskey, veteran race driver. And to help get the race off to a good start, there was a new starting gate. The Grand Prix has certainly come a long way since it began on the mall in front of Hovde Hall 24 years ago. In May, the Purdue Invitational Track Meet was the last of a long series for Dave Rankin, Purdue's head track coach for the last 35 years. He retired at the end of the season, and Mike Payline, cross-country coach for the past 8 years, was appointed new head track coach. The best performance of the day was that of pole vaulter Ed Langford. The NCAA indoor champion already held every Purdue pole vaulting record, and he set new school and track records by clearing 17 feet, 10.5 inches. One of the most fascinating research projects on campus is in the CAD lab, or Computer-Assisted Design and Graphics Laboratory, in the Potter Engineering Center. Headed by Professor David Anderson of Mechanical Engineering and backed by several research grants from government and industry, this group was searching for ways and means of improving computer graphics as a tool of engineering, design, and manufacturing. It's really amazing what some machines can already be programmed to do. Given adequate instructions and data, they can picture a model at rest or in motion, enlarge or reduce details, insert or delete captions and or parts of drawings, change colors in various parts of an image, and more, all at the flick or twirling of a finger. The difficult thing, of course, in what this group is studying is the design of new programs and machines which can do more than this with even simpler commands, if you can imagine that. One of the first events of fall was the Activities Carnival, where student organizations set up booths to recruit new members. One of the most popular this year was the one with information on summer jobs. The job lists at financial aids were also well used because government aid to students was being tightened, and some students were planning ahead for harder times. At the second annual Industrial Roundtable, sponsored by the Engineering Students Council in September, over 80 corporations sent representatives to explain employment prospects to students who might want to interview with them later. To raise money for student scholarships, the 7th annual Boilermaker National Tractor Pull was held in September. Over 100 tractors of different sizes and weights came from all over the Midwest to compete in the 3-day event. Object of the competition was to see which tractor could pull a 60,000-pound weight the farthest along a 300-foot track. Special events included a tricycle tractor race by Purdue women students. At the same track a couple of weeks later, the Tractor Pull Foundation combined forces with the Rodeo Club, Circle K, and the Noon Kiwanis Club to hold the first Boilermaker Rodeo, again to raise money for scholarships. More than 100 professional riders and 3 student members of the Rodeo Club participated in the vigorous competition. Kenneth Burns, former Director of Purchases and Service Enterprises, became the university's Vice President for Physical Facilities when Walter Wade retired. Here he conferred with Bill Ehlers, Director of Engineering and Utilities, about some of his new responsibilities. One of the fastest growing departments on campus is Restaurant, Hotel, and Institutional Management in the School of Consumer and Family Sciences. RHI has grown from about 80 to over 600 students in the 7.5 years that Professor Joseph Siak has been department head.
We specialize in preparing students for managerial careers in the hospitality industry. That is, those businesses which deal directly in food services and/or lodging in some way or other. We currently offer 7 programs leading to associate, bachelor, and master of science degrees, with options in business, hotel, restaurant, and institutional management, food services and lodging supervision, and dietetic technician. Companies particularly like the special emphasis which we place on laboratory experience. For example, we bring in several visiting chefs each semester to help students learn what it takes to prepare and to serve quality food, and how to communicate with these culinary experts. We have excellent laboratory facilities, including the John Purdue Room and the RHI cafeteria. The local Sheraton Hotel cooperates by providing reception and housekeeping experience. We also have arrangements with other companies which allow us to offer co-op programs for students who need to earn as they learn. Our excellent relationship with the hospitality industry owes much to the work of Brother Herman Zaccarelli, head of the Restaurant, Hotel, and Institutional Management Institute, which is in continuing education. He designs seminars, conferences, correspondence courses, and other special educational programs for professionals who are already in the field, usually at the request of their employers. Certainly, this institute has contributed greatly to Purdue's growing reputation in the hospitality industry.
For the past 27 years, Ross-Ade Stadium has been the scene of many great band shows featuring one spectacular Golden Girl after another. Professor Al Wright, the director of bands who was responsible for all that, stepped down from his major duties this fall. And Professor Richard Dunscombe was appointed the new director of bands. William Moffett, prominent arranger and conductor, was appointed director of the All-American Marching Band. Here's a small sample of his work from the first game of the season, which was nationally televised by ABC. The Notre Dame game provided one of the highlights of the 1981 football season and also demonstrated why wide receiver Steve Bryant was voted most valuable player by his teammates. In Purdue's closing drive, Bryant caught quarterback Scott Campbell's pass on the 1-yard line to set up his winning touchdown catch and 2-point conversion, which gave the Boilermakers a thrilling 15-14 victory. At the end of the season, Coach Jim Young announced his retirement from football.
There are probably many reasons why I decided to give up football. Basically, I guess it's because I wanted to do something different, and I felt that I had devoted the majority of my life to football. I've enjoyed all of it. There's been certainly...
In his 5 years at Purdue, Coach Young led the Boilermakers to new stature in the Big Ten with a 38-18-1 record and 3 postseason bowl victories. He will remain at Purdue as an associate athletic director.
Competition with the full support of the
At the same press
administration, and
conference,
certainly myself,
athletic director George King
I would
made
like
this
to
announcement.
Take this time to introduce to you the man who has been appointed the new coach, and that is Leon Burtnett from our present staff. Leon?
As defensive coordinator for Young, Burtnett achieved recognition for originating Purdue's famous junk defense and for his success in recruiting outstanding players.
Thanks very much, Coach. I'm only as happy as, I sure hope you folks as happy to see me as I am to see you. This is a dream come true for me. I can only hope that when I get out, that I can have the respect of my players as Coach Young did, and that you're able to say about me what you were able to say about Coach Young.
The first Go Boilers brunch was held in the Armory just before the Ohio State game. Sponsored by the Purdue Alumni Association, it proved so successful that they've decided to make it a regular event next year. The combination box lunch and pep rally featured remarks by athletic director George King and entertainment by cheerleaders and members of the marching band. At halftime, the first Special Boilermaker Awards were presented to Father Phil Bowers for his work as a counselor and advisor to many student organizations, and to Dave Parker, class of '80, who organized students to support legislative funding for the new library. The award is sponsored by the Purdue Alumni Association and will be given annually to individuals who've contributed to the improvement of campus life. Homecoming weekend arrived and attracted alumni for the Illinois game. The housing units again outdid themselves in trying to capture the spirit of the game in boisterous and rousing displays. There were 3 big winners Saturday. Purdue took the game 44-20. Amy Schwenker, a junior in RHI, was named homecoming queen, and alumni executive director Joe Rudolph had the pleasure of standing in for President Hansen, who was leading an alumni-sponsored tour of China. The president was back for the late October meeting of the President's Council, where he announced the result of the plan for the '80s campaign, which had a goal of $34.2 million. The money will be used for construction and new programs in science, engineering, and technology.
So that is our figure as of tonight. $40,744,144.76. If you have 34 cents, please step forward and round it off.
2 weeks later, this press conference was called.
This evening I announced to the Board of Trustees my intention to step down as president of Purdue University. The most difficult part of this announcement from my standpoint will be the ultimate separation from so many people who have treated us so kindly here at Purdue. The alumni, the students, the faculty, the townspeople, and the trustees. No president and his wife could have asked for more from these people who have been such a positive factor in our lives.
All of us on the Board of Trustees are saddened by his leaving, but we understand his sentiments and, of course, accept his decision, though most regretfully. The goal of the trustees now is to select the best possible person to become Purdue's 9th president.
Students in the various housing units made sheet signs expressing their feelings for the president. And this was the one they judged the best. As the end of the semester and the year approached, it was time for the 3rd annual Madrigal Dinner. This was dress rehearsal for a festival designed to give the feeling of what it was like when kings, queens, lords, and ladies shared the excitement and pageantry of a great feast.
Wassail all over the town, our coast is white and our rail is brown, our boat is gray of the white rainbow tree, with the wassailing home we'll dream to be.
With participation by faculty, students, and townspeople, it was a splendid example of the warm relationship which exists between the Purdue community and its many friends outside. And certainly a nice note on which to end this report on 1981 at Purdue University.
Come, butler, come, fill us so full of the best, and we hope that your soul in heaven may rest. For if you